So now with this, we have U.S. forces in Afghanistan and Iraq, bordering now Iran. So it has to go into Iran. When it goes into Iran, the reason why we have not had our nuclear detonations in this country, which are the bombs, the devices, have already been preset by the CIA. The reason why we have not had this is because we've had not an enemy to blame this on other than Russia, because the Cold War is over, right?
Right.
So when Iran goes nuke, then the CIA will be able to detonate the nuclear devices in this country, which the program on TV, Jericho, depicts. It depicted a nuclear detonation in Denver. And so when these nuclear devices are released, then Iran will be blamed, and then it will motivate this country to go to a total war footing against Islam. And now the Vatican will have what it has wanted for at least 2 centuries, a complete and total war for the annihilation of Islam as much as possible, so that when they go to rebuild the Third Temple, you won't have all these Islamic terrorists trying to blow it up. And they're going to move all the gold from all the central banks, including the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, which stole all of our gold out of Fort Knox. They're going to bring all that gold ultimately into Europe and then ultimately into Israel to garnish and build the Third Temple.
Now, with all of this going on, I mean, there is big talk about China, India. I mean, them as powerhouses, still being godless in a lot of ways, still persecuting their folks. How do they play on this stage?
China will be the kings of the East, according to the Bible. They will be united, and they will ultimately invade Israel. They will cross the Euphrates River and invade the nation of Israel at the end of the 7-year tribulation into Armageddon, or the Valley of Megiddo, and then the Lord will destroy them when he returns. But we can expect to see the alignment of the Eastern nations, and this is exactly what the Vatican is doing. It's using our military-industrial complex here to give China all of our top technology with Bill Clinton, who's trained by a Jesuit.
Yes.
They gave them our top torpedo technology that travels 240 miles an hour underwater, and only the tip touches the water. And now they can sink any of our major aircraft carriers, which we can look for that to be a possibility in the future, that our fleet will be betrayed by our Joint Chiefs of Staff and deliberately sunk, so that we can be successfully invaded on the West Coast. And remember, with this issue going on in San Francisco with the people there not wanting to go with ROTC and so on, now the Jesuits have an excuse not to commission a new aircraft carrier there, so San Francisco can be unprotected. And what we have then now is from San Diego, from the Boomer base in San Diego to the Boomer base in Seattle, we have no military bases on the West Coast.
But hold it, there's Coronado, with all the Trident submarines are housed in Coronado. We have the SEALs.
Southern California, right?
Yeah, Southern Cal, and we have the huge military base of Camp Pendleton in San Diego.
But that's only from San Diego. There's nothing in between San Diego and Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Except Nellis, which is in Las Vegas. I mean, they could have some fighters go in and try to stop it, but there's no. When I grew up in California, we had an Alameda Naval Air Station.
Yes, true. El Toro.
We had all sorts of things on the West Coast. Now we have nothing. And they've done the same thing in Canada. They've shut down the West Coast to make it an easy invasion for the Chinese. And the Chinese already have a foothold in Southern California. They've got the Long Beach base there, and they've also got the Los Angeles base. And they're bringing in weapons and guns. Who do you think's running guns to all the blacks in Los Angeles?
Right.
Chinese. And so this justifies more fascism. This justifies more martial law. This furthers the race war that the Jesuits have been building for the last 40 years to further weaken the population, to make it more easily to conquer with the foreign invaders, what I call in my book the Sino-Soviet Muslim invasion.
Yes. And that's another reason why, well, you're talking about the base closures, and also just that we have a volunteer army, and people are talking about bringing back the draft because they're actually, so look, for those out there that are talking about the war on terror, they are talking, they're completely missing the boat, or they're a part of the problem. This idea of the war on terror does not exist from what you are saying.
That's correct. The war on terror is a justification to do whatever the Jesuits want to do militarily through the Bush family dynasty. Remember, we have been in martial law since 1950 with the Emergency War Powers Act of Dirty Harry Truman. And therefore, that's why in every flag, in every bank you go to, the U.S. flag is always trimmed in gold fringe. That's why every courtroom you go into, the state flag and the federal flag are always trimmed in gold fringe. They are the king's bench. They are nothing more than executive courts. We do not have a legislative branch any longer. That's why no constitutional arguments are listened to. And so with that, we have martial law. Whenever they proceed against you in court, your name is always in all capital letters. Those are your nom de guerre, your name of war. And so it's a proceeding in a military fashion.
Yes.
Because we're under this kind of martial law, the president can do anything he wants. The Congress doesn't have to declare war, and they can go anywhere and do anything. But what he needs is an issue to do it. So we have the goofy Gulf of Tonkin event for the signals NAM.
Yes.
We have the 9/11 event, so we can be blamed on the Muslims.
Right.
Because it is a war against Islam. The Jesuits have always wanted Jerusalem free from any Islamic
influence, absolutely. Presence.
Right. And so that's what they have created now. And so it's going to be a continual war after war. The federal income tax. The income tax on a man's wages was never intended by that amendment. It was put upon us illegally in 1942 as a victory tax. The income tax on a man's wages is a war tax.
Yes.
Daylight savings time is wartime. No nation in the world except the U.S. and Canada goes to daylight savings time because we have been at war since 1950.
Yes.
And so with this whole, what I call the Pope's Holy Roman 14th Amendment, corporate fascist, socialist, communist, Masonically led American empire, it is the hammer, it is the battle axe of the Vatican, having created Hitler and Nazism, having created Joseph Stalin and Bolshevism, having done all those things to all those people, having financed World War II on both sides nearly, having built the whole Russian military, beginning with Lend-Lease and that Knight of Malta, Averell Harriman, when he signed it into law.
Yes.
No, this empire is the heart and soul of what the Jesuits have built for their coming world government out of Jerusalem with a third Hebrew temple.
Well, you know, we have to have you back on because I want to talk with you of course, the Pope met with the head of the Greek Orthodox, the Orthodox Christians in Turkey, wanting to reunite Christendom. And so this is something where we got to pick up because, of course, we're out of time, dagnabbit, Eric. And you know what? It is amazing to speak with you. You are right on time with what you are bringing out. Amazing cosmology that you just laid out for folks. Something I don't think we have heard in some time. Thank you for your scholarship. Thank you for your passion. And thank you for looking out for everyone with your amazing work.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Eben, and your listeners.
Absolutely. Eric Phelps. The book is Vatican Assassins. Be on the lookout for its third edition. I am so over time. Gosh, I hope you guys got to hear all this. Otherwise, it's going to be up on the net.
And join us next week for more mind-blowing revelations from the Fringe.